my discussions with the green design team, I thought this last mile connectivity and the Quark was a good move in that. How the industry structure and dynamics based, hearing what Anil just said, there's a whole set of different elements that are beginning to fall into place. And if I look into history, we had the first steam-powered vehicle way back somewhere in the late 17th century. And then from there, we went to buggies without horses, to road locomotives. And then obviously, what we have now in terms of whatever applications of IC engines that we have. So that I would like to call as the first inflection point where we started seeing a different form of mobility happening. Now what we are seeing is a completely different structure into play. And it's quite exciting because having worked in India, especially in the early 80s, when we were making a few thousand cars to now that we're making 1 million cars, the nature of the industry in India and globally has also changed. I mean, China has emerged as one of the leading countries that is manufacturing automobiles. They had also a very nascent manufacturing industry. And what I think now we have is the second inflection point where, things like ride sharing, and Ravi spoke about ride sharing and where its future lies. People are sort of suggesting that it's going to be a momentum towards personal transportation, but I think there will be some form of ride sharing which will sort of take a wing as this pandemic sort of, leaves its hold on us. What we're also looking at is mainstreaming of EVs is ultimately a reality. We thought that this disruption would take much lesser time, but it is going through a build-up in momentum, and potentially we see that by 2030. There should be quite a sizable chunk of electric vehicles. We are seeing autonomous vehicles also. There's a lot of momentum there as well. And I think in this, the boundaries between private, shared, public transportation as we move forward are going to get very blurred in ways that we haven't even imagined. So the basis will be how to move from point A to point B. And in my discussions with the green design team, I thought this last mile connectivity and the Quark was a good move in that direction. The other bit that I see is the automotive industry operated in silos as distinct from other forms of transportation. And I think that's going to change. And there's going to be a more interconnected, customer-centric ecosystem happening. And it'll actually change the way we look at our automobile industry, the way we look at roads, the way we look at the customers look at how mobility is. So there is going to be a stretching in the capabilities of OEMs. We're going to see a completely new segment of technology-driven companies that are going to come to fore, and they're going to look at doing things differently from what the traditional automotive, the incumbent industry would do, because it's been very, very difficult to push towards innovation, the incumbent automotive industry players. The other bit that I see is that there is going to be a move towards hands off the wheel, towards, driver's mind off the road. And that's something that I'm actually looking forward to because, all of us would like to just sit in an automobile, a mobility device, and do other things than wondering who's going to come in from the back and bang against you, and you'll be out of the car, and you'll have a slanging match. So that's going to be very interesting, that move. The fact artificial intelligence will be able to intuit what people need and design the package around that. So that's very interesting from an industry's perspective, industry structure and dynamics perspective. What's very exciting is also the form, and I'm sure Sonia will talk about the form, and I've had this discussion on form with the team at Green Design. I mean, why does a car need to look like a car? I mean, why does a car need to have a bonnet and a boot? Why does it need to have an instrument panel? And, the purpose is basically to get from point A to point B in the safest, efficient manner. And with connected vehicles, and shared vehicles, these changes can go much, further, because in this case, the vehicle doesn't need to be designed around the driver, and pretty much all the elements of automobile design will go by the wayside. And it creates enormous opportunities for non-automotive industries to participate in the value chain. And I think we can already see this. Technology companies like Apple, like Google, Alphabet, and many of the others are actually participating in value chains related to mobility. I think it will open up minds, because the automotive and IC focused industry was blinkered and not willing to change. I think this creates a momentum to allow mobility upstarts. And I can sort of qualify Anjan and his team at Green Design being a good example of upstarts who are upsetting many of the industry dynamics and ensuring that the silos that the automotive industry had cast in this business will be removed. The other bit that it's very interesting is the social forces at play, So instead of buying a car, you're looking at just going from point A to point B. So that creates an entire different dynamic. Maybe we won't buy cars, or we'll buy less cars and then buy none, because there will be many other alternatives available over a time period. And that's going to be very interesting. The other bits are the way that our roads and highways will have to be structured. That combined with, buses, your airplanes, your trains, and all other micromobility solutions, they'll create a completely integrated network of different options that are available for people to travel, to be mobile. And sensors, the Internet of Things, the cloud, etc., will help to gather a lot of data, according to me, which will help in, creating traffic flows, improved traffic flows, parking, and keeping the environment clean, stuff that Anil just spoke about. And I think from a consumer perspective, I think the ecosystem will evolve around the consumer. So the choices before the consumer will be, do I want a machine or do I want freedom? And especially from my perspective, I think we should go for freedom, because end of the day, you swipe and you're able to get an option which offers you the best way to get around to do your job. So that's going to be an interesting element coming out of it. And I see a lot of move towards that. Overall, I think the ecosystem that is currently formulating presents a great opportunity to green design, and its avowed ambition of inventing electric mobility solutions. That's all from me. Thank you.